Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. In this guide, we're gonna break down seangares' Omen in order to bring light to key concepts that every controller player must know in order to succeed. Being known as one of CSGO's best in-game leaders that came out of North America, and having plenty of educational content surrounding professional Valorant and Counter-Strike, he is a perfect example to learn from when figuring out how to command a game from the controller position. Every move made by seangares is calculated with both the potential risks and rewards taken into consideration. This kind of playstyle will allow you to use strategy and tactics to get an advantage on opponents without having to solely rely on your aim. Before we jump into the next clip though, remember that this guide is just a taste of the hyper improvement system you'll find on our website, where you'll learn how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. Backed by our rank improvement guarantee, you have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. Alright, let's jump straight into it. To start the game off on a quick pace, Sean and his team decide to rush B. But before we break down the remainder of the round, let's give a quick tour of where your smoke should be placed whenever you're planning to rush B main without any control of market. If your only path of scaling into B site is from B main, smoking market is a huge asset to your team, since market is such a common position for the second B site player to play, or even the mid player if they want to give their teammates a bit more support towards the extremities. Market becomes even more powerful whenever coupled by support from a player on stairs or CT spawn to create multiple angles that the attackers have to deal with. Luckily, most controllers have multiple smokes, so pairing a market smoke with a smoke blocking CT spawn or stairs are both amazing options. Having a smoke for CT spawn and market is the go-to option that almost always needs to be smoked in order for this type of attack to be successful. You can smoke stairs since this is an extremely common position for defenders to play, but it's usually not seen as important as blocking as CT, since the cover that protects stairs is quite paper thin and can be wall banged if needed. The combination of these two meta smokes help neutralize one of the most potent and common crossfires that B site has to offer. But seangares has a different variation of which smokes he chooses to place on B site. He decides to smoke CT spawn first, which, as we previously just went over, is a consistently strong and common smoke to place. The key difference here is that with his second smoke, he uses a unique one-way that can catch the defenders off guard. Sean places his smoke on the roof of the shed next to the stairs. This gives attacking players a clear view of the defending player's feet if they choose to stay behind the smoke. From their screen, it's just smoke that blocks their view of the entrance to B main. If they want to get a clear sight, the enemy has to swing all the way to their left where there is no cover to use. Clearly, this is not the ideal positioning for this individual, either forcing them to retreat backward into B site or choose to duel an unfavorable matchup. Now that we've witnessed this cheeky one-way smoke, let's break down how to use this for ourselves. If you're Omen, all you have to do is open the smoke placement screen, hover your smoke above stairs, then slowly move it towards the roof of the shed that surrounds the switch by tapping right click. When the green arrow that shows where your smoke will land indicates it will land on the roofing, that's when you should activate the smoke. The ideal spot is when the green arrow is on the very corner of the roofing for the best effect. For all my Viper mains, you're in luck, since we also have an easy and consistent lineup for this exact same one-way. First, head into this corner next to the hut. Then, center your screen to the top of the antenna above B main. Move just a bit above the antenna. You can use the clouds in the background to get an estimate of where I'm aiming relative to the antenna. Then, jump, and while rising up from the jump, throw your poison cloud. The timing of when you throw your poison cloud during your jump is important, so make sure to get a couple of practice reps to make it perfect. You want to toss your smoke as you are rising from the jump, but not too early to the point where your smoke doesn't even get over the building. An amazing benefit to this lineup is that you can also retrieve the smoke after you're done by just jumping under the shed and retrieving it through the roof. Unfortunately, Brimstone does not have a way to use this specific one-way, since his sky smokes do not land on the top of the roof of the shed, but rather are placed below the roofing instead. Once Sean is finished using his smokes on B site, he notices all 4 of his other teammates are initiating a push from B main. This encourages Sean to stay back towards tiles to watch any flanks. Sean understands that helping his teammates swing out of B main isn't his first priority based on his teammates' positions. Having at least one player or ability to watch the flank when applying heavy pressure on one side of the map is important. This is because when 3 to 4 players are confirmed to be pushing one site, defenders are quick to rotate, especially greedy ones where they hope to catch a fast flank. During his stay at Tiles, Sean recognizes that the enemy Omen smoke is placed a bit lazily, allowing him to push through the smoke to find a potential duel towards Catwalk. What makes this smoke a lazy smoke is the misplacement of the edges. Here's a prime example of how you should preferably place this tile smoke. If you look at these smokes side by side, you'll notice the one more similar to the enemy Omen smoke bulges out towards mid. This protrusion can give players an opportunity to walk out of the smoke while simultaneously isolating threatening angles. Knowing this, Sean finds a perfect timing to frag the Cat player and sneaks out. This play is not exactly risk-free since at the end of the day, smokes aren't walls and can be shot through even if the enemy can't see you. But the combination of all of his smokes being on B site, the rest of his team making noise in B main, and the misplaced smoke by the enemy Omen is enough of a reason to guess that a player may push out of Catwalk unprepared. After finding that frag on the Sova attempting to push mid, Sean clears out the other angles with a quick peek and stays tile for a brief moment before settling on moving back to his teammates in B main. During this, he communicates that they should go silent and wait for his smoke cooldown before they enter into B site. Finally, the whole team is in B main waiting for the smoke and flash. Sean says to his team that he only has one flash. With this in mind, he announces that he'll be smoking market and saves his Omen flash for later.
I don't have 2 smokes, I only have 1. So it's either spawn or it's market.
As a controller, communication on how many smokes you have and where they'll be placed makes your teammates' lives so much easier. Your entry fraggers need this type of information given to them so they can plan their crosshair placement and routing depending on where they're vulnerable from. Once Sean's smokes lands on market and Reyna flashes, the rush begins. Everyone begins to fly into the site. However, Sean, realizing that he is the last player to push out of B main, is given an important choice. If you were Sean, would you either stay back and hold the retake from B main, or push out of B main to help your teammates clear the site? Sean chooses to stay back in B main to hold any rotators trying to push out of market or CT spawn. Maintaining B main control during post-plant is a huge advantage since it forces the defenders to feel unsafe when pushing towards stairs and lane since you can peek and catch them at any time. Also, from this position, you're able to hold for any late flankers trying to enter B main from tiles or T spawn. Afterward, Sean holds in B main waiting for the defenders to push out of market and CT spawn. As soon as he makes contact with the Omen that falls into logs, he pulls out the paranoia he saved from earlier to flash the hiding Omen. Sean goes for an aggressive peek towards CT spawn, knowing that Omen can't assist his teammates if he takes a fight. Unfortunately, Sean whiffs a couple of needed headshots and the enemy Reyna hits a nasty flick. This is a great instance to display that a play with calculated intentions behind it can still fail based on less consistent circumstances like aim. Focus on how Sean uses the information he's given based on his teammates' movement to capitalize on greedy rotations and badly placed smokes, since these are lessons you can implement into your own game. Alright, moving into the 4th round of the same game, Sean starts by smoking Catwalk as well as bottom mid. These 2 smokes are your go-to options when you want to deny the enemy team information on mid. If one of Sean's teammates chose to push out of tiles without bottom mid or cat smoked off, they would have to peek into multiple dangerous angles simultaneously. If the opponent did decide to push one of these smokes, the opponent is vulnerable to multiple angles since mid is such a huge area. Top mid, tiles, and everywhere around fountain are all threats when the defenders try to push well-placed smokes. Copy exactly how Sean places these smokes. The edge of the smoke doesn't stick out of the gate, which we mentioned earlier is optimal since enemies can't push these smokes to isolate angles for advantageous duels. Sean even applies this concept to his Catwalk smoke by planning it a bit deeper, so if they push out that smoke, they still have to deal with tiles and top mid. Just goes to show that even the smallest details can have huge impacts on how the game plays. Once these smokes are deployed, Sean walks towards B main to group with his teammates. They plan to hit B site in this round, but there's a huge concern we have to center on. Sean has no smokes to block any of the dangerous angles such as market or CT spawn. Sean already used all of his smokes for mid earlier in the round. But this is where Sean's foresight is displayed, since before the round even started, Sean noticed that Killjoy has her ultimate as well as his own. Noticing that he has these strong tools already, he's willing to use all of his smokes at mid in order to feign presence to deny info, because they only need these two ultimates to effectively open the site anyways. Being able to look at your team's resources and understanding where your smokes could be better used is a trait every controller player needs. So before you think about saving your smokes for an execution onto a site, take a moment to look at your resources, specifically your team's ultimates, to see if you can find other avenues for your utility to be used. They make their way into B main and the lockdown is placed. As the Killjoy lockdown is going to end, Sean teleports into a completely open B site. As the rest of his team floods into site, Sean plans to plant the spike. But there's an essential difference between this round and the last round we watched earlier. If you take a look at the minimap, we can see there's no one attempting to hold B main. Sean was the player who did this last round, but since he ultied into B site since he had the spike, no one else took the role of staying back to hold the rotates. If we let the round play out, we'll see that as the spike is being planted, the enemy Sova pops his Hunter's Fury and finds 2 frags. Soon after, they get pushed from lane and Jett finds a classic headshot onto seangares. This could have been potentially circumvented if they had kept a player to lurk B main so that enemies couldn't push lane so freely. It is a bit unlucky that the Hunter's Fury does kill 2 of his teammates, but having one player B main could have given his teammates in B site more space to dodge the Hunter's Fury. Now that we've seen the standard mid smokes from the last round, let's watch how to use these same smokes to get easy frags with smart movement. Take note that this is an eco round for Sean's team, meaning he only has a sheriff, light armor, and his abilities to work with. Sean knows that the enemy team has a full buy, so taking long-range duels versus rifles when you only have a sheriff in hand is an unfavorable matchup. Sadly, the sheriff doesn't have enough firepower to kill a fully armored player with a single headshot at farther ranges. Taking this into consideration, Sean wants to get as close to his targets as possible before initiating a fight. He starts the round by smoking bottom mid and then catwalk. Once both smokes are active, he swings out to clear any possible enemies that may have pushed out before the smokes popped. These smokes block the long range angles that most players will peek from, allowing Sean and his teammates to walk up mid to closer ranges where duels are a bit more favorable. During this, his teammates at B main find a pick onto Jett and take control of B site almost immediately. Yet again, Sean's attentiveness to how the whole map is playing helps him find spots that punish common rotation mistakes. As we mentioned earlier, whenever heavy pressure is coming out from one side of the map, mid players are likely to rotate by pushing mid. This is even more relevant whenever you are on an eco round, since rushing one site as a group of 5 players is a common eco round strategy. The enemy is more likely to assume that you aren't keeping players lurking on the map because of details like this. If you were in this scenario, what would you do? Would you rather enter the smoke so you can hide inside, or hop on the ledge and wait outside the smoke? Using the same principle we discussed earlier, Sean hops onto the ledge of catwalk and hides behind the Radiant boxes to hold for a push from the cat smoke. A common play that many controllers will make is pushing into the smoke so you can hide inside it and wait for the enemy to push into it later on. From your screen, you will see their gun model and hands enter first even when they are unable to see what's inside. However, this only works if you are the first one in the smoke, not the second one, since the player entering is at a disadvantage. This strategy is exceptionally strong with Omen since his smokes are clear inside, unlike Brimstone's sky smokes. Viper's Poison Cloud isn't clear like Omen's smoke either, but it does apply a decay, which damages enemies if they touch the smoke. If an enemy decided to push a Viper smoke and you're already in it, they are as good as dead. Sean is aware that the enemy could likely be inside his smoke already, since the distance the defenders have to walk is way shorter than the pathing the attackers must take in order to enter the same smoke. Now that we know that pushing a smoke is a frequent option for controllers unless you aren't the first one in, it's much more understandable why Sean opts not to push the smoke, but rather hide behind the double stack of boxes. Not even a second later, the enemy Omen takes a leap of faith off of catwalk and gets instantly popped by Sean's sheriff. This frag gives Sean a phantom to use for the remainder of the round. This scenario encapsulates how controllers can find frags by playing inside or around their smokes to establish a fight on their own terms. Knowing which option to choose when playing around your smokes is vital to setting yourself up for effortless frags. Fast forward later on in the same round and we see seangares cleaning up the thrifty win with a 4-kill round to swing the game for his team. One small optimization on how to play around his own smokes gave Sean the tools to win a huge round that could change the game entirely. Let's move on to the 12th round where we get to witness a more aggressive playstyle with a controller. Omen being one of the few controllers that has a flash, he's given more chances to play aggressive when strapped with his paranoia. Sean preps the round by flashing the B main entrance to stop any enemies from peeking the first angle. A caveat with Omen's flash though is that it's quite large and very easy to accidentally flash your teammates if you're not spread out enough. If you want to be able to swing this corner wide instead of hugging the wall, the chances of flashing your own teammates are quite high. Keep this fact in mind, or maybe let your teammates know you will be flashing so they can relocate. Sean peeks the first corner towards the exit of B main, then proceeds to clear the cam since Cypher was still in the act of placing it. There's a possibility that the Cypher was making noise so that his teammate could cross into the B main cubby. With this in mind, Sean hops into the box to tap the ultimate orb. This is to cause an audible cue that may bait the enemy into peeking him, thinking that he's in the middle of taking the orb. The enemy would peek into Sean's crosshair since his crosshair placement is perfect to stop a peek from cubby. Once Sean is done holding the cubby peek, he holds the B main exit for a brief moment before pulling out his smokes. The Sova activates recon drone and Raze uses her boombot, which shows Sean that he can start to smoke where he needs to. Using the usual smokes we have seen countless times on B site, he closes off market and CT spawn. Reyna flashes and Raze pops her showstopper to find the entry they need to open the site. Sean pauses for an instant as this is all happening since he knows that as his role as the opper and the controller, he needs to hold for any peeks that may catch his Raze while she's trying to find a frag on her ultimate. Sean posts up on stairs as well as the CT smoke if they push out. Raze blasts the Reyna in CT spawn and the rest of the squad pour into B site. Having a grasp of what role you must fill within that round is a skill you'll need to refine as you play the game more. What resources his teammates have and how they are using their abilities gives Sean a better idea of what actions he needs to take in order to fully support his teammates the best he can. Obviously though, you won't be blessed with teammates that are willing to charge in first every game. Controllers aren't limited to only playing the backline with their toolkits. They can be flexible enough to hard carry games if they need to. But remember that they still have to be calculated whenever they can. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. Otherwise, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching and we'll catch you in the next one.